In Why I Write, Orwell listed 4 great motives for writing, apart from the need to earn a living. Firstly, there was sheer egoism, desire to seem clever, to be remembered after death, to get your own back on grown-ups who snubbed you in childhood. Secondly, there was aesthetic enthusiasm, perception of beauty in the external world, or on the other hand, in words and their right arrangement. Thirdly, historical impulse, desire to see things as they are, to find out true facts and store them up for the use of posterity. And finally, political purpose, using the word political in the widest sense, desire to push the world in a certain direction. It set me wondering, what were my 3 main motives for joining the Orwell Society? I wonder what yours are. Firstly, I guess for me, yes, sheer selfishness. I wanted to meet the son of George Orwell, and I wanted to meet other folk with a similar interest and swap ideas. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all my fellow members of the Orwell Society committee for their hard work and friendship. Neil Carr is the outgoing treasurer, not unfortunately here today, but in the short time he's been in office, he's transformed our budgeting arrangements. For each committee meeting presenting an incredibly detailed breakdown of all our expenditure and income. So sincere thanks, Neil. And thanks to the other Neil Smith, for your extraordinary commitment, doubling over last year as both secretary and membership secretary. Secondly, in my list of motives and following Orwell, there's aesthetic and educational enthusiasm. I wanted to learn more about Orwell's life and writings and share that understanding with my students and in my journalism. On this, I'd like to give special thanks to our patron, Richard Blair, for sharing your memories of your father so openly and so warmly. And thanks to Quentin Cobb, too. Quentin is currently recovering from a serious operation, so unable to attend today. In his place, Richard Blair will be giving the events report to this AGM. I'm sure you'll all join with me in wishing Quentin a swift recovery and return to his Orwell Society activities. For Quentin, it is the extremely energetic events organiser for the Society, and through the many activities he organises with such panache, at Sutton Courtenay, Jura, to Orwell's Spanish Civil War trenches, to Wigan and so on, we've all learned so much more about Orwell the man. And Kronsberg has also taken on the education hat for the committee with gusto, giving talks and writing about Orwell and Southwold and planning some imaginative Orwellian interventions in schools. 2 important ways in which we promote our educational unit is to organise annually a dystopian short story competition for university students, together with a competition for a £3,000 bursary amongst journalism students. I'm delighted to say that both winners are with us today. In recent years, the journalism school at Brunel University has launched a prize for the student producing the best piece of work in the spirit of Orwell, and I've enjoyed selecting the winner each time. Thirdly, again following Orwell, I want to help in storing up information about Orwell for posterity. In this area, I'd like to give special thanks to Les Hurst and Masha Khan Les is our extremely dedicated website and social media organizer. No week goes by without Les uploading some fascinating piece of info about Orwell. Recent subjects have included Orwell's fascination with political pamphlets, Kenneth Pickthorne's Principles or Prejudices, Nigel Bryant's Men of Farm. Masha is the excellent editor of our journal, which is always packed with fascinating original pieces. Masha has an important book project to deal with at the moment, so he's being joined as assistant by Jason Crimp. So welcome to Jason and to Benedict Cooper, who's been co-opted since the last AGM to run the Society's publicity side and who has since made some important initiatives. Orwell was obsessed about being a failure. How wrong he was. Today he's one of the most written about authors, yet still new books regularly appear on him. This reflects Orwell's enduring significance as a political and cultural commentator, but also the extraordinary range of his preoccupation and life experiences. 2018 saw, for instance, John Eusinger's Hope Lies in the Proles, George Orwell and the Left, Eric Larson's study of Orwell's wartime quarrel with the Pacifics, Alex Comfort, and there's been an illustrated life by David Smith with drawings by Mike Mosher. More recently, there's David Dwan's Liberty, Equality and Humbug. Both DJ Taylor and Dorian Linsky have new books coming out on 1984, and we're looking forward to seeing Sylvia Topp's biography of Eileen, Orwell's first wife, shortly. 2019 is, of course, the 70th anniversary of the publication of 1984 by Secker and Warburg on June the 8th, 1949. The journal marks this with a piece by his biographer, DJ Taylor. I'm pleased to say back by popular demand to speak to us again later today on the novel's unusually long gestation. On 9th of May, the Orwell Society is once again collaborating with Goldsmiths, University of London, in an annual symposium. This year's event, not surprisingly, taking 1984 as its themes. Info about that event, see Eventbrite. Also later in the month, a two-day conference on the same theme is being held at University College London. Finally, earlier this year, Gordon Bowker died aged 84. And I'd like to end by paying tribute to Gordon. Many will remember his wonderful talk to our AGM a few years back. His biography of Orwell, published in the centenary year of 2003, provides a host of new insights into the man, his life and writings. Indeed, for an insightful, concise, yet wide-ranging overview of Orwell, there's perhaps little to compare with Bowker's 6-page preface to the biography. Bowker's prose is always clear, yet densely packed with meticulously researched information. And throughout, he displays a deep knowledge of the politics and broader culture of Orwell's times. I'm sure you will all want to join with me in remembering Gordon's unique contribution to Orwellian studies and to thank him.
Richard Blair, patron of the Orwell Society. I'm standing in for Quentin Kopp, who normally is the one who does all our events and does them so well that he's, I have to say, almost indispensable. But I'm hoping he makes a very rapid recovery from the operation he had a couple of weeks ago, because we shall look forward to seeing him back in harness again very soon. However, in his absence, he asked me if I would do the events for him. 2018, well, of course, the highlight of the events really are twofold, in the sense that we go to Jura in the even years, and we go to Spain in the odd years. We do it time and time about. Last year we had wonderful weather. In June we went to Jura, as we have done in the past, and we were not entertained, but we were allowed to go to Barn Hill, where we had an absolutely splendid time with the Fletcher family, who allow us the privilege as a society of going into Barn Hill, where I have the honour of taking people around and showing the various places that my father, where he wrote 1984, and so on and so forth. We have members from all over the world. Isle of Ling, about 4 miles away as the crow flies from Barn Hill. Germany, Arizona, California and Australia were some of the places that people came from. After Jura, well, I will actually interject here slightly. After Jura, I was invited to go and do some filming for a company called Mac TV. Mac TV are in fact documentary makers, and some of their people that they do documentaries for is a BBC company called Albert Television. Albert Television is the Gaelic speaking segment of the BBC up in Scotland. They asked me if I would go out and talk to them about my father and the shipwreck that we had in 1947 in the Gulf of Corryvreckan, because they were doing a programme called Tides. And I'm happy to say that on the 1st of May of this year, in a few days' time, 9 o'clock at night, they are showing 3 programmes in consecutive weeks, of which the first one will be about Scotland and the tides that fluctuate up and down the west coast of Scotland and England. In there, a very tiny segment, don't blink, will be a short interview with me talking about my father and Corryvreckan. So that is on the 1st of May, in a few days' time, 9 o'clock in the evening, Albert Television, which is, of course, if you've got Sky, you can get that through BBC channels.
In Gaelic.
It's in Gaelic, by the way, because I do not have the Gaelic, I can assure you. It has subtitles. Right, we now go up to 2019. One of the major events we had was a trip to Cosford, RAF Cosford, to see the Cold War Museum. And this was organised by one of our members, Professor David Craig, who lives in Birmingham, or outside Birmingham. And we had a very good turnout for that. I don't know if were many of you there? Yeah. You were. It was a very, very good affair, and we were able to, we had a walk around one of the museums. Far too short, sadly. We could have spent all day there. And indeed, I think probably in the future, many of us will go back there again and spend more time. But amongst other things, we had David Craig give us a talk about the Cold War. We had an extremely interesting talk from Masha, who talked about the Russian part of the great patriotic struggle for peace. And it was a most erudite talk. I was really very, very impressed. She had such passion when she was talking. She came away from her lecture and stood in the middle of the room and it was very good. She ought to go on the stage. It was a splendid talk. But anyway, the Pope one I did a little bit myself, but was by the by. So that was a great day out, one which may or may not be repeated. I don't suppose it will be, probably a one-off, I should think, but who knows when it might be repeated again later in some years to come. This year, of course, is our trip to Spain. Now, this one is going to be longer than the previous ones. It's going to last for a whole week. We go out on the Monday, come back on the following Monday, because we have 2 extra parts to it. 2 years ago, we discovered too late that, in fact, at the resting station, the Ada, where my father was transported back after he was wounded, and was in hospital there before he was sent back to Barcelona, in the Ada, the local authorities have set out a garden my father's memory. And so this year we are going to go out, on our way out to Huesca, to the trenches. We will stop off there at lunchtime on our route, and we will be entertained. We will meet the local authorities, and we will have this garden will be dedicated, and something I'm looking forward to very much. The other thing that we're going to do is when we first arrive in Barcelona, is the following day we're going to take the train down to Valencia to go and see the grave of Bob Smiley. It has finally been identified by a local person, and it has been authenticated as this was where he was buried. We all know from years ago that he was caught by the NKVD and was pretty much tortured to death. But nobody actually knew where he was buried. They had some idea. They knew it was in Valencia, but they couldn't say exactly where. But it has now been identified. So we're going to go down there, again with local guides and authority, and go to see his grave. So those are two little extras that we are doing for our Spanish trip. Over and above, of course, our walk around Barcelona with Nick Lloyd, and then going out to Huesca, where we have Victor Pardo and his wonderful translator, Elena, who will take us around the trenches. So that will be in a few days, a couple of weeks' time, 13th of May, in fact, where we go out. And what else have we got here? Yes, well, we have a trip to Wallington to go and see my father's house at the Stores. And this will be, I believe some of you will be coming. We are going to be being invited to see round the house at the Stores and also the church where my father was married in 1936. So that will be something extra that we've not done before. The only other thing that I'm going to show off about this, and this won't see this on film until next spring, is I went out to Spain a few weeks ago at the behest of Michael Portillo, who was doing great railway journeys. And the reason for that was that his father was also involved in the Spanish Civil War at the same time as my father. And he wants to major on this particular aspect as part of his great railway journeys. So there'll be an hour's program, not an hour's program with me, I hasten to add, more like 30 seconds probably. But anyway, that's to be transmitted sometime next spring. So I think that pretty much covers everything that is going on at the moment. No doubt there'll be extra things will appear from time to time, and we will let you know. So on that note, I will close that particular element of this AGM.